All right, so today we're going to be talking about manifestation and what it means, what's the myths around it, what's the truth around it, how to manifest, and how to utilize and appropriate the law of attraction.
I said that, yeah, I said that, yeah,
Fancy Bookwriter.
Okay, so we dived into this a little bit in previous episodes, but we have to discuss now in depth what manifestation actually means. All right, so it's just a fancy word. I don't even like using the word anymore because it's been so popularized, it's been so used casually to the extent where it doesn't even mean anything anymore. But at its core, from a spiritual perspective, manifestation simply means changing your reality. And given that your reality at all times is always changing, you are always manifesting. So, for example, time moves. Time in the 3D world moves linearly, right? We're not talking about outside of the 3D world. We're talking about in this realm, time moves in a linear fashion. And because time moves in a linear fashion, one can say that a change of reality occurs in every time interval, right? And time can be split into the smallest components, right? In the 3D world based on subatomic particles, and the smallest quantity of time that you can have that interval is the smallest amount of change and manifestation that it can occur. So you're always manifesting. That's just facts, right? There's no, oh, I manifested that. You manifested everything, good, bad, and ugly. But the difference is whether you are manifesting things that are favorable for you, or are you manifesting things that, unbeknownst to you, maybe is unfavorable. And if you are manifesting things that aren't favorable for you, then that's when you want to have control over what you manifest. And if you are manifesting things that are favorable for you, then you don't really give a fuck about controlling it because life is going in a direction that you want. So let's talk about how to start motherfucking manifesting, right? The first thing, as we always speak of, that is a requirement, not optional, is self-awareness. You have to have self-awareness. And the reason why self-awareness is important to changing your reality is because how can you be aware of what's running in the background if you can't see it? Right? If you have a computer and your computer is running and you don't know why your RAM is running slow, you're like, yo, my computer running slow. But then you look in the background and you see that there are various things that are running unbeknownst to you. You must go in and turn those things off. So self-awareness is the human version of the computer, and you must see what's running in the background that's zapping your energy and turn it off. All right? So self-awareness is always key for optimal, maximal manifestations. That's the key. So, for example, most of the things that are running in the background of your mind that you are not aware of are belief systems. Belief systems. And beliefs is no more than programming over time. So many people have beliefs that they don't even consider beliefs, but it's acting in the same way as a conscious belief would, only it's acting in the background. And because it's acting in the background and you may not be self-aware enough to see it, it is influencing your life. Let's take this for an example. Let's say at some young age, someone or some sort of experience taught you and told you, or you rendered this set of programming that money equals evil. If you want money, it's evil. You gotta be evil to accumulate it. You gotta be evil to want it. It's greedy. You shouldn't have aspirations, etc. And that was either implicitly or overtly programmed into you at a young age. Now, when you fast forward years later, if you haven't addressed that programming, then it will manifest in the form of your belief system not believing that you should get that money, and your actions that will be correspondent in proportion to that belief system will behave accordingly. Therefore, you might always run into business failures that you don't know what's going on. And you think that it's outside things. Oh no, COVID hit. That's why it failed. Oh no, the market wasn't good. Oh no, X factor, Y factor. They're sabotaging me, right? That happens. And you think that it's an external world things. And logic would show that it would validate what you're saying. Logic would say, well, yeah, there was a economic downturn. There was a crash of the stock market. There was a shutdown of the economy. So that justifies your belief. However, there are other people who succeeded during that time. Why did they succeed? Because they had different internal beliefs. And if you have a different internal belief, that can override and does override the external circumstances. So back to the example, when you have these beliefs that money is evil as like a kid and you don't even realize it, it gets covered up. And then years later, you're failing in business. It's directly related to the belief that you had, and that's affecting your actions. It's affecting the decisions that you make, the opportunities that you see, and how you approach things. Are you risk averse? Were you self-sabotage subconsciously once you reach a certain point? Right? All of those is the actions of the person. And changing your reality or manifesting, right, is a sequential, real-time decisions accumulated over time. It's micro decisions. Even what are you gonna wear? What are you gonna eat? What are you gonna sniff today? Who are you gonna talk to? All of these micro decisions start becoming large belief systems over time if they are habits that you are unaware of. Therefore, that mindset directly influences how your life will be. And people are gonna hate me for this. They're gonna hate me for this. They're gonna say, well, what do you mean? What about all these external circumstances that happened to me? It's their fault. It's not mine. All right. So we have that, which is valid. That's valid. But let's address that. Let's address that in depth, because there's a lot of nuance here that we have to talk about in a very perspicacious manner, right? We have to use a lot of keen intelligence to diagnose this, because it's not easy to say on the surface, and it's a complex and deep topic. So external circumstances are manifested from you. All right, that's the clickbait right there. Why is it manifested from you? Because in a quantum reality, which is what our universe is configured on, not just the 3D reality, your very thoughts and your actions and your mindset put you in a lifestyle configuration to be susceptible to things that you are on the same vibration of. What the fuck does that mean? So if you have a negative mindset and you are always thinking of what can go wrong, it will hinder you from seeing opportunities. And because the 3D world is a competitive landscape in terms of achieving or success or life outcome, right? Now, other people who do see the opportunities will end up being the ones that take advantage of it. And the opportunities will not even appear to be there, because the mindset in looking for the opportunity will not be there. Like Albert Einstein said, you can't solve a problem with the same level of mind that created it, right? So the same level of mind that he's referring to, I'm referring to the level of vibration. Essentially the same thing, maybe a little bit more nuanced. However, that vibration that you on, you fucking think life sucks, everything's terrible, nothing's going your way, nothing can go your way. That is your crux of your mindset. All the opportunities that an optimist would see or someone with a better mindset would see, you don't see. Therefore, you stay at that vibration. And that's a form of manifesting your life, all right? You got mugged the other day. Someone robbed you. How did you manifest that? Did you manifest a motherfucker robbing me? Everybody is going to be mad at this. They're going to be mad. Yes. Did you walk down that street that day? Now, I'm not saying in a legal sense you were at fault. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that in a legal sense are you at fault. No, the person who robbed you is at fault. However, your life circumstances, the decisions that you made, the overall quantum configuration put you in that spot. I'm not saying you deserve it. I'm just saying it is cause and effect. You ended up there, someone else did. And some people call that luck. All right, I'm cool with that. I'm cool with you calling it luck. I'm cool with you saying luck, because the definition of luck is coincidental that is not no apparent cause, right? It's a circumstances that's coincidental that doesn't have an apparent cause. But just because the cause isn't apparent doesn't mean that the cause isn't there, and the consequence or the subsequent action. So all of your manifestations put you in certain situations and configure your life. All of the micro decisions and the vibration that you on leads you to be either lucky or unlucky, right? Some people are just lucky, but there's a reason why some people are just lucky, right? There's always a motherfucking reason. People don't be lucky by luck. There is an underlying process that governs that. And that process is what people refer to as manifestation. Lucky motherfucker, all right? And some people, right, a lot of people in the entrepreneur world will say that luck is when preparation meets opportunity. But you have to have the preparation, right? So when the opportunity arises itself, you are able to take advantage of that, and some people call it luck. But preparation is everything, motherfucker. Without preparation, that's preparation of mind, that's preparation of actionable steps that you have taken, that's preparation of the work that you put in. That's manifestation. That's manifestation. So when the opportunity does present itself, that because no one is aware of everything that can happen, you can always increase your awareness to infinite extent, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be aware of everything that motherfucking happens in the world. Therefore, when you prepare, when you have actionable steps, and when you govern your mindset, boom, you see the opportunity. That is manifesting. I don't give a fuck what y'all motherfuckers say. I don't care if you don't like the word. I don't care if you don't like the term. That's manifesting, whether you like it or not. That's changing and altering your reality from a conscious choice or a vibratory pattern. And behavioral patterns is the foundation before any action. Behavioral patterns is the foundation before any action. What do you mean by that? Behavioral patterns is the foundation. All right, so your behavior governs the actions that you will do on a regular and consistent basis. So if you have a mindset or a grind set, right? And you are always trying to put the work in, you're always trying to do everything the right way. And then as you put the work in, you're trying to optimize that work and make it more efficient, and you're trying to maximize the amount that you do, right? Then you can achieve a lot more in whatever field than you are than someone who doesn't put the work in, all right? And that can always, there was a phrase that says hard work always beats talent when talent don't work hard, right? We can see that in sports where a lot of the most talented guys don't have the most distinguished careers because often they rely off that talent and they don't want to put that work in. And some of the least talented guys put that work in, like Tom Brady, for example, who was not really athletic by any stretch of the imagination. No one really believed in him, but he kept putting that work in and had the mindset. And therefore, he ended up being at the top of his game because of the effort, and when the preparation met the opportunity, the motherfucker just got lucky and lucky and lucky and lucky and lucky and lucky and lucky. If you're that lucky, you just manifested it. If you are that lucky, you just manifested it, bro. Right? We don't gotta get into like all this extra shit. If you are that lucky, you are the luck. All right? You are the source. You are the energy. All right? So you can say, all right, well, why do some thoughts come into reality, but other thoughts don't come into reality? What's going on here? Why is there a contradiction? How can I not think myself into being rich? How can I not think myself into $1 million? Because you don't believe the shit? That's primarily, most thoughts do not manifest into a reality because you skipped steps. Thinking and manifesting is not the same thing. That's where these gurus get it wrong. You just think about it. Just think about it, Becky. You'll manifest a man. Just be in your bed, close your eyes, write that shit down, and then say, ooh, ooh, ooh. And a man will come down your chimney in December. And it won't be Santa Claus. It'll be the man of your dreams. And he's going to come through and come in your room and, seduce you. And he's going to wipe off your dusty box. Like, that's not how the shit works. That's not how the shit works. Thoughts don't turn into reality. Who told you that? Which motherfucking spiritual fake guru told you that shit? Thoughts do not turn into reality. Not directly. Not directly. Not thought, reality, bam. Oh my God, I'm fucking God. Like, no, dickhead. It don't work like that. It does not work like that. How it works is thoughts turn into actions. And if you think the same thing for long periods of time, it turns into mindsets. And your mindsets turn into character, and your character makes all of your actions filtered through that character basis. So if you a real nigga, right? If you a real nigga, and all of your actions is real nigga actions, then your life will be substantially different than a fake nigga. If you a fake nigga, then your life will be different than if you a real nigga, because your thoughts are predicated and filtered through the lens of a real nigga. The thoughts itself don't just magically turn into the reality. The thoughts turn into the character turns into the mindset, or vice versa. The mindset creates the actionable steps, and the actionable steps turns into the reality. Can't just think the motherfucker, because if manifestation always worked that quickly, then what happens when you think something negative? Right? If you could think something positive and it just boom, bursts into reality in an instant, then goddamn it, I'd be scared to think something negative. You know, there's people with suicidal thoughts, there's people with negative thoughts, there's criminals. You would not want your thoughts to turn into reality. So the concept is just hogwash. Bullshit. Perfunctory. It does not make sense. So who told you this? These spiritual gurus, fake gurus. They fake ass gurus. And no shade, I'm just keeping it a bean. I'm keeping it a buck. I'm keeping it 100. I'm keeping it 1,000. Keeping it 300 like the movie, right? That's all I'm saying. That shit don't even make sense. Thoughts turn into reality and shit. Nigga said, let there be light and shit. Like, come on, bro. Who do you think you are? Reality check. Reality check. That shit don't even make sense. That's not how it works. Thoughts turn into your mindset and your character, which is crystallized mindset. Character is crystallized mindset. So thoughts turn into your character or your mindset. It crystallizes into your character. Your character creates a series of hundreds of thousands, millions of actionable steps that you do every day. And those actions create your reality. That's how you manifest, motherfucker. Manifestation is more like alchemy. It's not like magic. It's like alchemy. Well, niggas, they be like, well, alchemy's magic, dickhead. All right. Manifestation is akin to mixing something in a pot and cooking. All right? It's not magic. Magic is, oh my God, I thought about getting a house dropped down. Like, bro, you know how many motherfuckers is thinking the same thing? If manifestation worked like that, then everybody would be motherfucking getting cribs and shit. Everybody be eating. So it does not work like that, obviously, right? And because you are in real time, and if you chop down the segments, because you are manifesting in real time, start now. The only way that you can manifest something is if you start now. Start today. And it takes 16 seconds. 16 seconds of a thought momentum for it to reach exponential energy. The energy can reach exponential status in 16 seconds of focus. 16 seconds of focus on a thought, it can reach exponential energetic potential. I'm not saying you're gonna manifest in 16 seconds, but the precursor is you always have to start now. If you don't start with the very thought that you have now, you're always gonna be projecting in the future. And that's where we're gonna go to next. We're gonna talk about how motherfuckers frame change in their reality. People frame the reality change in the future. The future is abstract. There is technically only a hypothetical future. Future is abstract. The future is not actually tangible right now in the 3D world that we're all residing in. If we're in a 4D world, then I ain't gotta tell y'all motherfuckers shit, right? You outside of the simulation. But everybody watching this is in the simulation, right? Who simulated it? So you have the 3D world and you have present. There's just one moment. There's one moment. It's just it. The future is our intellect knowing what's possible. That's what the future is. There ain't actually a future. The future is our intellect's ability to predict and see what's possible. But technically, we're only seeing what's possible in the present, and we're using the linear method of 3D time to project that out. It's not real. Therefore, when your manifestations are future-based, they're not real either. I will do this. I will do that. I will get a car. I will get a woman. I will get those big buns and the voluptuous titties. I will get that man. I will win this fight. I will become world champ. Will. You are projecting that out. So every time your mind thinks of it, it's not in the present. So how can you form the prerequisite mindset and configuration in your brain if your brain is always looking at that in a future sense? And if it's in a future sense, in a future tense, it's not now. And your brain and your subconscious mind only works based on what's present. I will stop smoking cigarettes. I will fucking eat healthy. You always will do something. So therefore, it always will, no pun intended, be in the future for your ass. It has to be now, present tense. I am, nigga. Even if you a fat nigga, 400 pounds, I am thin. Delude yourself into believing it. Who cares? Say it every day for a year. To yourself. I'm not saying tell the world. You'd be a little bit crazy and lack social intelligence if you out there telling the world, right? That'd be not smart thing to do. But tell yourself, right? And you will see that actions follow beliefs. Beliefs can follow actions, but actions more readily follow beliefs. When you start programming yourself, which is all a belief is, and you start saying that I am, I do this now, etc. in the present, the actions will try to fix in accordance with what you just told yourself. And that's rule number one, but that's another law, right? Hold up, that's a bar.
Fancy Bookwriter.
Right? When you have certain beliefs and mindset, your actions will follow what those beliefs are first.
Fancy Bookwriter.
Right? So that means that the prerequisite and the attractor and the real manifestation is character-based. All manifestations in the spiritual sense is based around the individual, not necessarily based around the outcome, right? The outcome, once it finally is in the 3D world, nigga, that shit was already growing. You already manifested that shit. Now we just see it. It's like a seed, right? You have a tree, and before the tree pops out, or a plant for that matter, pops out of the soil, massive growth has already occurred. And there is certain types of vegetation that sometimes takes an extended period of growth before it pops out through the soil. I forget the name of the specific plant that what it is, but there are specific vegetations, and correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, or actually give me more details of what that specific plant is. It's on the top of my head. It grows for like 9 months. So if you was one of those first farmer to plant those motherfuckers, you're like, damn, this shit ain't growing. This shit ain't growing. Meanwhile, the roots are growing feet under the ground. Dozens of feet, stalks are growing, and you don't even know, unbeknownst to you. And then once it pops out, you're like, oh, there it is, it finally grew. But it was always growing. So when the thing happens and it's actually manifest in the 3D world, that shit already had motion, brother. That shit already had lots of motion, right? Things cannot just appear without the motion and energetic potential behind it. So when you finally see something, when you finally get that job, when you finally get that girl that you've been wanting for 3 years, when you finally get that big promotion, when you finally get that entrepreneurial breakthrough, when you finally close that deal, when you finally lose that weight, when you finally bench press 265 pounds, when you finally make that breakthrough, the work has already been in motion to be put in. That shit ain't instant. Right, like these motherfucking internet guru spiritual motherfuckers will have you believe. Just think it. Think about putting those 300 pounds on. Think about bench pressing that shit, and then it'll just do it. No, that has to be set in motion. And then, as you can see in any graph of exponential outcomes, of exponential growth, once you have that momentum, then manifestation happens a lot faster, right? Once you start making your first 100,000, once you make your first million, then you're like, God damn, I just made 5. Oh shit, I just made 30, right? Because on a quantum level, the only thing that matters is getting to that state of momentum, of belief. Once you're at that state, then manifestation can happen fast. But it's a big snowball, more like an avalanche going down the hill, where you have to build that first. Is it? So this is the number one question right now is, all right, if that's true, and we can accept that as being true, right? Is it possible to manifest shit without that background work? Without all of that? Can you quantum leap into the motherfucker? Yeah, you can. You can quantum leap into manifesting shit. Now, people are going to be, well, that's a contradiction in terminology. Just 10 minutes ago, you told me that you had to put on this work, you had to do the work of the character, you had to do all of this other shit in order to be in that situation. Now you're telling me you can just quantum leap? What's going on, Bookwriter? Tell me!
Fancy Bookwriter.
All right, so I'm going to tell you right now, motherfuckers. You can quantum leap, right? People hit the lottery all the time, cuz you could quantum leap and be born with talent. You could be born a talented motherfucker and quantum leap into manifesting things. However, just because you quantum leap into it, you can just as easily quantum leap your ass out. Right? Because there's no stable structure to hold that energy in place. So yes, you can win the lottery, but look up the facts. How many people who win the lottery keep the money after 3 years? You will be surprised. And if you are a very keen, smart person, then you will not be surprised because you already know the answer. Right? You can quantum leap into succeeding in business on the first time, but often that's not the flex you think it is. Sometimes when you quantum leap into shit, especially when it comes to business, you don't learn the difficult natures and you're not immune to pain and the struggle. And in the first struggle, you collapse. So yes, you can quantum leap into shit, but that comes with the risk of unsustainability. Right? So it happens, right? You could, bam, get rich off of crypto, right? Then when crypto crash, you don't know how to do anything else because you haven't built up that mindset. So yes, manifestations can work in quantum leaps, but quantum leapers, unless you have mastered the art of quantum leaping, but mastering the art of quantum leaping is the same thing of going through the trials and tribulations of failing and building that prerequisite mindset in order to manifest, so it doesn't even matter in the first place because it's still the same path. So the point is, yeah, you can quantum leap in this shit, but it's very unsustainable and unstable. The instability is self-evident by the lack of people who are able to stay there, right? So it's possible. Now, how important is expectations to manifestation? How important is your expectation? Well, expectation is a mindset. If you don't expect the motherfucker, then your mindset won't look for all the opportunities filtered through the expectation, right? If I expect to get paid, nigga, I'm looking. Everything I see is like, oh, paid, right? If you don't expect it, you're looking elsewhere of what you do expect, right? You expect to breathe air. You expect the sun to come up every day. You expect the fucking moon to be showing. You expect to go to work tomorrow, right? All these expectations are you sealing your reality further. So start expecting things that you normally don't. Your goals. Write down things that you want to expect. And that shifts your mindset to look for things that actually govern that expectation. As above, so below. The inner world is the outer world. So you cannot see it on the outside world without seeing it in yourself first, right? You can't see that shit unless the internal world, it's a direct filter. The internal world, your eyes, your brain, all that filtration mechanism is based off of how you perceive the world, and part of that is your expectation. That's why there's a placebo effect. Why does the placebo effect work? Right? Doctors will be like, well, because you believe it. Well, okay, because you believe it. But what does the belief do? What does the belief do? What is the unit and quantity of measurement of what the belief does? The Western scientists are, I don't fucking know. I don't know. It's just a process. When you believe it, things happen in your favor, right? They have done experiments where they did placebo surgeries. Motherfucker didn't even remove the gallbladder. And now he felt better because they expected that to be the outcome. Expectation is everything in terms of beliefs and manifesting. You can say you believe something, but if you don't actually expect the result, then you don't believe shit.
Fancy book writer.
You don't believe shit. You feel me? You must expect the motherfucker, all right? And that belief system and the expectation along with that, just like the placebo effect, has an effect on all of the cells in your body because they're all programmed by the same source. They're all connected neurologically. And neurologically, there's a web that stems out from your spinal cord, and we call that the chakra system of the energy. But in modern scientific terms, it stems out and has action potential that governs most of your organs and your functions. And you have every cell that has energy and is powered, and you can have conscious control over your the voluntary your nervous system, and the parts that you do have the conscious control over, right, governs that energy. And when you have a mindset that runs through all of the cells in your body, and your expectation can have a direct effect on that through the action potentials of the cell, the energy it governs, and how it the enzymatic reactions and catalytic enzymes react in your cells and governs the energetic potential and the metabolic function of those cells. Therefore, because of that very nature, your brain has a substantial effect on your biochemistry, your physiology, your biology, your psychology, and your neurology. Just from thinking it, right? If you have a winner's mindset and you have what we call heart in like the fighting world, you're tired, you want to give up, but you can still go and you can still bring out and dig deep, as they say. That is having a direct override effect on your physiological health system. You are saying, give me more energy, demanding it. And guess what it does? It gives you more. We all see people in sports all the time, which we consider and routinely say, this motherfucker has heart. Well, where did he get it from? We ain't talking about just the heart right here. We talking about the actual function of being able to draw more energy when other people couldn't. That is a direct psychological and physiological effect on the body that is manifesting in real time when you need it in the field of sports. We see it. We see expert manifestors. They need a win. Some people have the win button. It does not even make any sense if you knew any basketball in the late 90s and early 2000s, how Robert Horry was able to hit so many big shots. Now, I'm not saying everybody gotta be a Robert Horry fan. I'm not saying he's the fucking GOAT list or whatever, but that motherfucker hit so many big shots, it's statistically improbable. Doesn't even make sense. But he was a chronic manifester. At the end of games, when it's on the line, give the ball to him. He believed in himself, he expected it, and other people expected it. And that's what we're gonna go to. The more energy of expectation, the more aura of manifestation that you can occur and incur. Because once you expect it and you start being good at what you do in whatever field, and you produce a consistent, regular outcome in that field, and other people say, oh shit, they expect it because they seen you do it. Now you have more energy to do what you need to do. You create that aura. When Mike Tyson was in his prime and he was beating up everybody silly with crazy left hooks, right hands, uppercuts, knocking people out violently and viciously, everybody else expected it. And his fighters often, his opponents came in the ring often intimidated because they expected it themselves. So they was the antithesis of manifesting a win for themselves because they didn't believe they was gonna win. They believed Mike Tyson was gonna win. And that's why you have like fighters when they say you want to get in someone's head. You're getting in somebody's head because you're altering their manifestation abilities. And on the 4D world, that's where that energy exists in before it exists in the 3D world. Where we tap into when we daydream, when we ponder, when we meditate, when we're in deep concentration, we're always tapped into that ether. So, for example, to keep the example on fighting, there was a situation which John Jones and Rampage Jackson, right, both had a fight, an MMA fight. And Rampage Jackson was really big on manifestation. A lot of fighters are anyway, like Conor McGregor, he talked about it, John Jones. But anyway, Rampage Jackson was manifesting knocking people out because he carved his mindset and he had that expectation for himself, and he had certain rituals in which he was like, yo, I'm going to knock John Jones out. And he believed it, and he had a momentum at that point. And John Jones started to believe it. He put it in the ether. Rampage Jackson put the knocking John Jones out into the ether to the point where John Jones himself started feeling insecure about he's going to get knocked out. And John Jones even had dreams about it. He tapped into the ether and downloaded something adverse to himself about him getting knocked out. So John Jones was like, fuck, like every time I go to sleep, I'm having these dreams of Rampage knocking me out. And Rampage directly knew that he was trying to manifest that and put it into the ether. And John Jones caught it. And John Jones had to find a way to get out of that. And the only thing John Jones could do to break that belief system that he was going to get knocked out is do something different that never occurred in a dream. And when John Jones did something different, Rampage Jackson actually stopped believing because that was something that he didn't expect. And John Jones ended up winning, of course, but it just shows the level when you are that focused and dealing with that type of energy at the highest level, things in the ether can affect you. All right? Because everything goes into the ether. So that's why you can't just haphazardly think that your thoughts are going to become reality, because there's all types of thoughts. These thoughts often aren't even yours, cuh. They're not even your thoughts. So you have to make sure that you tap into yourself, but also tap into a powerful ether outside of yourself. All right? A higher self, so to speak. You have to tap into the higher self. That's really the crux of manifestation. All right? You can manifest little play things here and there. You could do whatever you want on this 3D world. But if you want to manifest things that are meaningful, you have to tap into something higher than yourself. Right? That's why there's religions. That's why there's religions. They are delegating their manifestation out. They're subcontracting it out. They're saying, look, you do it, God. You do it for me, right? And whether you call it God or universal intelligence or the simulation, all top scientists right now kind of are saying that we live in a simulation. And religious people are saying that God created the world and the earth. So how is that not the same motherfucking thing? It's assimilated. That's a creation. Y'all just using different words. So tap into that motherfucker. And of course, tapping in requires that self-awareness. But first, you have to delegate that out. So you can always subcontract that out. That's part of your beliefs. It's part of your beliefs, right? But here's one thing that's facts. Manifestation cannot occur without you taking action. Impossible. It cannot occur without any sort of action being taken. That's one thing that's true. Thoughts are one thing, and you can manifest thoughts and you can think, but without actions, you really don't believe shit. Actions prove beliefs. You could say, I'll do this and that in this situation, and then this situation occurs and you ain't doing shit. Because your actions actually dictate what the beliefs are. And programming over time is more efficient with action. So belief is programming over time, but the most efficient form of programming is action. That's why you retain the most information when you're teaching someone something, not when you're actually learning it. Even if you are a different type of learner, you actually retain the most information when you teach it, because action is the highest form of repetitive belief. And repetitive belief system turns into a mindset, and in the mindset, then you can manifest. That's how you change your reality, right? Right? And then you will attract things based on that belief system. So you are in charge of what programming enters your mind. It doesn't matter what the external circumstances are. It doesn't matter what environment you grow up in. Every environment that you grow up in is opportunity, and all environments that you grow up in has pros and cons. So even if you're unfortunate and in a war-torn country, right? All that means is that you might get immune faster. You might develop that hard, tough skin faster now. So that can be an advantage. And your circumstances and how you view it is all that matters. Because whatever the external reality looks like, or whatever it appears to be, all of the external reality is always filtered through the human emotion. So it does not matter if you're in a war-torn country and you're smiling through it, like some of the babies that you might see, or the kids that you might see that's going through very difficult, unfortunate circumstances in the Middle East or in Africa, right? When you see certain parts of Africa, not all of Africa, it's actually pretty developed country, a lot parts. But in certain parts, or in like North Korea or somewhere in Cambodia, in very impoverished sections or in tribes, you can see some of the most potent forms of happiness. You can see some of the most potent forms of happiness in those places because they're not looking at their external circumstances. They're only looking at their internal circumstances. And they're not trying to change things. They're just trying to change their mind. That's true manifestation when your vibration is consistent regardless of the circumstances, right? You had people like Gandhi. That's why he's so revered, because he had a certain mental circumstance and environment in his brain despite the external circumstance. That's all an illusion. The external circumstances, that shit's all an illusion, cuz.
Fancy Bookwriter.
That's like just hogwash shit. What matters is your relationship to the external circumstance, right? So your mindset, your mental capacity, how your emotions regard that circumstance is what is more important than the circumstances itself. Because how you view things changes the things that you view. And your basic interaction with the external world, right, is governed by those same mindsets. So every circumstance that you have can be an advantage. If you're born with a silver spoon and you have it all at your disposal, that could be more harmful than you growing up in the hood and learning valuable lessons and being able to make your trajectory and journey your way up. There's more room to climb in certain aspects, right? So the circumstance that you have does not denote the person itself, right? And that person itself has to have goals based on that environment that makes them feel happy. Everybody can't have the same goals because everybody comes from different circumstances. So as long as your emotions are in check, that's actually more important than the outcome, where people are more outcome based. They want to judge outcomes. No. You can have 50 cars, $100 million in the bank. You could be a great, marvelous entrepreneur and be utterly depressed. And you can be, $50,000, $40,000 a year in Hawaii, just surfing every day in the waves and loving your life. You can't have the same goals. So you can't say, oh, he manifested more than you. No, it depends on what your goals was. This guy who had apparently on paper has it all, he might be secretly trying to manifest other stuff and can't. And the person who seemingly has nothing, he might have manifested everything he dreamed of. So you can't judge things on the surface. But one thing's for sure, two things for certain, you gotta put in that action. That action drives that mindset. That's how manifesting really works. Don't listen to these other people when they're trying to tell you how this shit works, right? They're gonna steer you in the wrong way. They're gonna say things that make you feel good or sound spiritually complex, right? And you could tell by what they wear. Like, Come on, man. You ain't got to wear all this fucking fancy yoga stuff. And if that's you, you can wear it if that's like genuinely a vibe. But don't put that shit on just for shits and giggles. We don't need all that. Just keep it real. This is how that shit work, man. And that's rule number 1.